All right, welcome to Ocean Steward Spotlight. I am Brady Bradshaw. I'm a campaign organizer with Oceana, and just wanted to introduce our series. So this is a 30-minute interview series with some of the ocean conservation movement's most inspiring folks who we have enjoyed working with in the past, and we just would like to give everyone an insight into who are the folks who are on the front lines of ocean conservation, and a little bit of insight into their lives and some of the takeaways that they have to share with us in terms of how to approach ocean conservation. And today we have Jarid Manos. He is right now in Florida, but Jarid, do you want to give us a little bit more information about yourself and how you kind of got into ocean conservation? What sparked this whole journey for you?
Yeah, how's it going? Well, I'm founder of the nonprofit organization Great Plains Restoration Council, and I'm also the author of the book Ghetto Plainsman. And I guess my life theme that sort of came to be is the violence we do to the earth mirrors the violence we do to each other and often accepted to ourselves. And I'm really drawn into open country. And so I started looking at, we work out on the Great Plains. It's a land of some pretty serious devastation and hazards and pristine wire fences that animals get snagged up in and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a landscape in collapse that broke my heart. And that's kind of where I ended up starting my nonprofit. And I wanted something to be different that involved people as well. And so it wasn't just objectification, but involved, we're not separate from the natural world. The natural world isn't separate from us. So I wanted to create an ecological health initiative that help people take care of their own health through taking care of others. So that's kind of our founding principle. And, as we expanded, there was a lot of interest in ecological programming. So it was a natural expansion into the ocean. And we started a program called Shark Therapy that helps people who have struggled or suffered in some way dive with sharks, which is pretty cool, calming and peaceful experience, juiced with shots of adrenaline at the same time, in partnership with Shark Addicts Diving, which is a really ethical operation, and West Atlanta Watershed Alliance and Gangsters to Growers. So it's kind of between South Florida and Atlanta, and we'll be definitely open for people around the country because, a lot of people are, there's a lot of stereotypes about certain people or whatever like that, or people who have had issues or whatever, people have been formerly incarcerated or whatever. And so just like people stereotype sharks. So we wanted to have them help each other. And so we're in support of the shark fin ban bill, which Senator Cory Booker has introduced. So, that's part of our work. We want to like stop the, the kind of commodification and objectification of the natural world. Like people think of it as the earth is just something that's just there. But as a freediver, first time I met a fish in person, and the way he looked you right in the eyes, kind of changed my life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as we shared a little bit before the interview, we're both freedivers, and I just wanted to reflect back. I know that it's we've both had our lives touched by this sport and this activity. And you speak to the objectification of the ocean. This is such an important perspective to bring. And I know that being in the water without a scuba tank, without gear, it's a humbling experience for me. I'm just curious to dive in a little bit more into those experiences that you've had with the ocean and maybe with sharks, and if you've had sort of a moment with that where you realized that there was a connection here between human beings and sharks, and how they're looked at and how they're treated.
Very, very much so. like I first started, I knew that I knew that the ocean was, you know, a destination point for me ever since I went to Texas and I went to the Gulf, which is kind of not a paradise or a vacation. The Gulf of Mexico is kind of raw, toothy place, very windy, and it's rough, and it's kind of brought me first step to the ocean, and then I got to the clear water, and it was like my second love. And then when I decided to become a scuba diver, I felt like it was too mathematical. And then I realized that being a scuba diver is like being an astronaut, and being a free diver is like being an athlete. And my whole life is through physicality. I don't believe the spirit is separate from the flesh. And I think that, you know, I experience the world through my whole physical self. And I don't think there's any, you know, the more that we try to bridge the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness of ourselves, that's where we reach higher. So freediving allows you to do that because you don't have any other choice. But it's simple too. You know, one breath, the ocean, and you and God.
Absolutely, I know what you mean. And absolutely, you know, the spiritual aspect of ocean conservation and your relationship with the Great Plains, I think is really to be admired. And I also wanted to ask you a little more about this concept of ecological health practitioner. This is something that you are, and I'm just curious to know, can you tell us more about what ecological health is?
Yeah, ecological health is the interdependent health of people, animals, and ecosystems. And this, again, this separation that the earth is just there, and all the rest of the life we share the planet with is just there for our disposal, is just didn't fly with me. So I thought that I wanted a new, you know, model for conservation or for the environmental work. And I thought that we got to engage people. So there is, if you create some type of process where you live like the watershed, you look at how your body and your life and your community functions just like the ecological world, the ecosystem, and you work to repair both. You can do ecological work, you can even pair restoration ecologists with social workers, and they can write the prescription and then you fill it. But when you're out there, rather than just being a visitor to nature, you're out there as one and participant in that ecosystem. So that engenders, you know, a deeper grounding, as well as, you know, you're providing refuge for others. And one of the things that we say is, by taking care of others, we take care of ourselves. And, you know, we have to stop thinking that, you know, that where we live is somehow separate from the ecosystem. You know, even in the hood, out on the prairie, you still live on the prairie. You still share the same sun, storms, wind, and water. You know, and when we you know, we created this model. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like the prairie and the ocean are two halves of a whole, and just like drawn into. We work on some of these like literary or artistic themes in protection and recovery.
Right. Some of these concepts kind of exist in traditional Chinese medicine, where they're talking about parts of the body that are connected to organs that are connected to the hand, and it's all a functioning system. And this is, I think, really good to draw this parallel between our health and the ocean. And yeah, I find personally like getting in the ocean is a huge boost for me physically, but also a place of spiritual sanctuary. And I call it my sanctuary as well. And but I also think what you're getting at is really interesting, where you're talking about this concept of doing something greater than yourself, and being in a state of doing something greater than yourself. And I know that a lot of people out there in our communities are kind of frustrated about, I want to take action. I love the ocean, but I don't know what are the first steps. I don't know what I can do. And just wondering if you know, have any advice for those people who don't know what the first steps they can take to help the ocean or help the earth. What would you say to someone who doesn't know what to do with all that energy?
Well, I would say, rather than just being a passive bystander, anything that we do adds to something, because we are in a state of crisis. And so I find that, you know, again, and we find that human trauma and crisis and suffering are eased somewhat by becoming proactive and getting involved and getting outside and helping others. And so wherever you live, there's a place and others, people and animals that need help. There's, intersectional opportunities to connect different groups with this that might have been overlooked. Our first partner in this, we're creating this over 1,000-acre prairie park in Fort Worth. It's one of the rarest places in North America. And you know who was our first partner? AIDS Outreach Center, kids from AIDS Outreach Center. And so the conservation movement, the environment doesn't look sometimes to people who very much care and want to get involved, get outside, and not just as a photo op or being, just a visitor, but provide refuge for others. And that's one of the ways I find that, human trauma and suffering, mental distress can really be salved by getting involved. And I think that the water tends to lend itself that ask I like to, ask people how many people have seen a sunset from underwater. And it's amazing. Or even during the day in the white halo of the sun from underwater, or being in the water instead of seeing fish is just objects.
Right. I mean, these perspectives that are really important to gain. I mean, we live one lifetime, and for someone to hear, have you seen the sunset from underwater? Is, I'm sure, makes a lot of people think deeply about what they've been spending their time doing. And you speak about this intersectionality, and this is a huge theme in the conservation movement right now, especially right now. It has been a theme, but yeah, I think one of the things that comes up in people's minds sometimes is there's so many issues, there's too much work to do. It feels like there's just I can't devote my energy to all of these different things. And I would just, I think the message you're bringing is really powerful, and want to know if there's maybe a simple way to say, or for you to convey this this vision that you have for sort of the ocean conservation community. What is a message right now that if you could speak to the entire, not to put you on the spot, but if you could speak to the entire ocean conservation community in particular right now, would there be like a vision that you would present that you want people to hear?
Yeah, well, I guess I think that a lot of people are traumatized, so I say action, the old saying, action is the antidote for despair. And if when normally 1 in 12 people are in mental distress, and now they say 1 in 3, doing something, I connect so people all over the world, and they're doing one thing in their local area, and I think that allows their lives to be more fulfilled and meaningful. So it doesn't have to be anything, but it's like if the rest of our lives is this big painting, and something you do each day is one brush stroke, you're creating, your life as a work of art. And then, and art re-engenders the human spirit. I think we just deadened or we're overwhelmed. President Obama made a post yesterday about climate change and what was going on in the fires in the Bay Area. And we have just kind of left, it's just been too much for people to really grasp. But, example, I spoke in Newark, New Jersey once, and they were like, well, how can we do this here? And they were like, well, then they started looking at the Piscataway River. There's still something that somebody could get involved. And I could say that communities of color, people who have disabilities, people who are struggle, veterans, or anybody, seniors, people want to get involved. I think you got to give them the opportunity and let their own lives, open the door for their lives to be, a work of art as well through action.
Wow, that really brings a deeper meaning to spending the time to reach out and get somebody who may not traditionally be involved to become activated by the same opportunities that we've had to enjoy the ocean. It's really a greater perspective than just bringing someone in to take an action to serve a particular campaign or purpose. it sounds like what you're talking about is transforming people's lives. And you're talking about building a movement from the ground up. And that's sort of where we've seen a lot of effectiveness with our grassroots team at Oceana, is when people come together around their local cities and it becomes a statewide movement, and then it becomes a federal movement. So I really appreciate that input. And I'm thinking something you said earlier in your commentary just now that made me want to dive in a little deeper too.
That's cool. Dive is a word. Go deep.
Yes, yeah, we're both divers here. So there was, I think, a piece that you, I'm gonna forget now, but it was yeah, that'll come back. That'll come back to me. I guess my next question is, like, what is, let's lighten it up a little bit. What is your favorite ocean location? What's your favorite place you've ever dove in the world? And just tell us a little bit about that place.
Well, I love I love doing shore dives off of South Florida. But one time, before I knew anything, I found somebody. I was in Puerto Rico. I was working. I lived in Puerto Rico on and off for my first novel that I've been working on, called Her Blue Water Streets. And so I asked this guy to take me. And he took me out to this island, Icacos, and it's uninhabited or whatever like that. And again, I really didn't know whatever I was doing, but I walked. You can walk around the island in a day, and so the farthest way I could get from the few people that go for the day, I just swam out, and I had to go through this reef. And again, I really didn't know what I was doing at that time, and it was raining, but it's not raining underwater. And I thought, that was kind of like a kind of an eye-opening moment. So I always remember that. I was so tired. I went and I went further down, and I had to find my way back through the reef to get to shore. I was so tired. I was lying in the water, so I love it all. I love all the fish, but that's one that sticks out.
Yeah, those experiences of being really humbled by the ocean for me really stick out as well. I know that there's been moments when I've returned and just had a greater appreciation for life, because I know that it took, there was a chance that I could have been injured or that it had to take some triumph to get through a situation in the ocean. And I think there's, for me, some parallels with freediving and just the work that we're doing in the campaign work and the conservation work, because I was reflecting on this the other day, that sometimes during a breath hold, there's a moment when I'm really having these strong contractions and these strong urge to breathe, right? And it feels like giving up is the best option. And sometimes with the work, it's like that can kind of parallel in real life, or as if breath holding isn't real life, but it can parallel in the work that we're doing. It feels like all the odds are against us, and we gotta, maybe it would be best to just back off and focus on something else. Have you had moments in your work where it just has felt like, and this is for everyone out there who is working on something big and worth putting some time in, have there been moments for you where it's felt like giving up was a good option and you either did that or decided to persevere?
Well, my dream job used to be a baggage handler. At the airport, I would ride my bike to work, have a few friends, come home to my dude, and have a few, raise a child or two. But always the world had continually pressed on me that I needed to do something more with my life. So yeah, just like if you give up underwater, you're giving up. One breath underwater means it's over. You can't do that. And so we're always stronger than we think we are. And this has been, I think ultimately it's the most engaging life, because our lives are not just for ourselves. Sometimes we're conditioned to think that. You can have the most exhilarating life by getting healthy and giving back. Taking care of others, we take care of ourselves, and we take care of body and earth as one. Stop seeing things as separate.
That's what it was. I mean, I think that's what I wanted to come back to, is that seeing ourselves, seeing how benefiting others benefits ourselves. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing to, it's a simple concept, but it's something that is important to reflect on over and over again. Yeah, and I just have seen that in action with the work that we do, but also I think our time is kind of coming to a close soon, but I wanted to ask you if there have been, if there are any examples in particular that you want to, what's Harry?
Somebody on a motorcycle, sorry, that's my motorcycle.
It's all right.
Go ahead, what were you saying?
Yeah, so just asking if there's anything you want to point to in particular that you've experienced that dynamic where you've put in work to protect an important place and you've kind of received the benefit from that as well.
Yeah, and we've had some losses as well. You know, we were working out west in Texas, and we had this totally pristine area that was public land that the state ultimately sold for development. It's being bulldozed. It was one of the most perfect places I ever saw. So, you know, but I found a way around it, and I'm still reaching my original goal rather than giving up, because it's like, I know at the end of the day, I'm still, even if it's not on a massive scale, I'm still providing refuge for others. You know, and that's what life is about, refuge. You know, providing refuge for others. And I think that just makes, for me, that just allows me to have a more profound life, you know, more meaningful life. And I think that there definitely a lot of people feel overwhelmed and ready to give up. And I think in general, just in life in general, but that's the thing that I found that keeps me going, even in those times when it's the hardest.
So yeah, so even if there isn't a direct reward in the moment, it's that act of service that is such a, what I'm hearing from you is that it's fulfilling to you enough that the act of service is kind of it's enough for you to feel the gratification just by being there for something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and I think that also, you know, you strategically guide your life towards goals and objectives, so you're actually, you know, receiving those benefits in advance of your work. But sometimes that may just be in touching other people's lives in this all as this moving us toward a more sustainable, healthier future. I like that word healthier future, where things are more kind of in balance. You know, somebody told me, I mean, it can be pretty catastrophic in some places out west, and somebody out west said I was out there last week, and somebody said, well, it took 500 years to just screw everything up. So he was thinking about, they created this big preserve, the Southern Plains Land Trust in South Dakota, and they're saying, you know, he's hoping it doesn't take another 500 years, but they're working at the long game. Now they have a preserve larger than Manhattan. So it's like, and I had help with the initial setup of that. So whether you're touching somebody or you're improving somebody's consciousness, or you're even getting people to call your senators to support Cory Booker's bill to ban the shark fins, which call before December 31st. Any senator call them to ask support SB 877. It doesn't matter. I got it, you know what I'm going to say, like, it's like, also, you don't have to stay in the same place you are or were your entire life. Your life can continually evolve. I used to, you know, I've been a vegan for 23 years now, but I could clean a fish blindfolded. You know, I used to love to fish, and for me, that is an example of one way of me changing. And I think about millions of fish being caught in one net, and I'm honored to meet one in person. That was my spirituality, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
absolutely. Sorry, I'm just gonna plug my computer in.
Oh, cool, you good?
That's another thing that that we share in common, that I've spent 11 years of my life in that particular dietary choice, and just that's another spiritual path of its own. But yeah, that's right. And I just appreciate you and your focus on both the health of the ecosystems and the people who are living, hopefully with we can all stand for a future that involves humans surviving on an earth with an abundant ocean. So I appreciate your commitment to that. And I wish that we could keep speaking and diving into this conversation more, but we've got to wrap it up. So I just want to make sure that people can find out more about your work and ways that they can potentially even get in touch with you. And so what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, I just finally joined Instagram, so very late, but I can be reached there or my organization, Great Plains Restoration Council at gprc.org. And I should have a collection of short stories coming out. It's called The Sun in the Water. Should be out next year.
Great. All right, we're going to put that information up just for people to for people to view the link, and so they can find out more about you and the Great Plains Restorations Council. Thank you so much, Jarid. We appreciate your time and appreciate your work.
Thank you, and I hope people get out to the ocean, and you'll find little baby yellowtails may come up and swim right beneath you as you swim out. They'll be your babies.
Awesome, very cool. Well, yeah, just again, thank you, and we're gonna resume next time with on September 24th. We're going to have Eric Angel Ramos, who is a CUNY PhD candidate in animal behavior and comparative physiology at the Graduate Center of CUNY, who explores acoustics and behavior of marine mammals. So Jarid and anyone else who wants to tune in for that, it'll be our Facebook Live accounts on September 24th.
Great. Well, it's good talking with you, man.
Yeah, great talking to you too.